Katavi, the grip of drought. Under Katavi's relentless sun, the waters that once offered refuge to the hippos contract with each passing day. The expansive lake slowly withdraws, revealing fissured mud and heat held low against the earth. Their former habitat is diminished to confined pools, where every movement is charged with strain and intensifying pressure. Hippos depend wholly on water to regulate their body temperature and shield their delicate skin from the intense sun. As the water level declines, the herd is compelled to gather within the final remaining hollows. The crowding is not by preference, but an unavoidable outcome of enduring drought, as the habitat that once sustained them grows progressively unforgiving. In the persistent heat of Katavi, the hippos' rhythm of life alters perceptibly. They linger in the water for longer periods, reduce their movement, and become more alert to any disruption nearby. The climate does more than diminish the lake. It steadily tightens the herd's patience, permitting tension to accumulate in silence with each passing day. Amid the severe conditions of Katavi, the hippos' everyday routine must decelerate. During the day, they immerse themselves in the last lingering pools to avoid the scorching heat. Each movement is restrained, as if energy has become a commodity, no less valuable than water in this season of drought. Among the herd, signs of alertness become increasingly pronounced. Every sound, movement, and look holds a deeper measure of wariness. As the water ceases to be ample enough for all, each individual's patience is tried with each passing day. For the hippos, life now is not simply survival, but the maintenance of a delicate order between heat and confinement. Such close congregation of crocodiles and hippos has scarcely been witnessed in Katavi. However, as the drought endures, established boundaries gradually fade. With insufficient water to divide territories, species that once avoided one another are now obliged to coexist within restricted space. Katavi becomes increasingly severe with each passing day, and the unusual settles into a new reality. For female hippos and their young, the circumstances grow particularly unforgiving. Hippos are unable to perspire to regulate their temperature, relying wholly on water and shade. As the water recedes, their sanctuary gradually vanishes. The calves, possessing far less resilience, confront the mounting threat of overheating with each passing hour under the severe sun. The calf edges tightly against its mother, seeking the scarce shade she can provide, though its strength steadily wanes under the intensifying heat. Deep growls resonate across the shrinking pool, a sign that strain has reached a critical point. Forcing crocodiles aside is never without danger. Yet to reduce the heat and safeguard her young, the mother hippo is compelled to risk it. Amid the spray of water and a chorus of rumbling growls, a great crocodile becomes ensnared within the crowded mass of hippos. Its sole means of escape is to glide between the vast bodies, shifting in uneasy disorder. A hippo's bite is strong enough to break a crocodile in two. Nevertheless, the reptile must accept the peril and attempt to pass through the encircling wall. Following the rush of intense movement, the water gradually grows calm once more. The young hippo withstands the disturbance and at last cools beside its mother. The strain temporarily recedes, replaced by measured, wary breaths. The crocodile likewise succeeds in withdrawing from the throng, climbing onto the bank and re-establishing a prudent distance. As the water becomes steadier, the hippo herd slowly resumes its customary routine. They linger quietly within the remaining pool, shifting their positions to escape the intense sun. The hurried motions have faded, replaced by prudence and restraint. Under the persistent heat, life carries on, more measured and wary than before. Upon the darkened bodies of the hippos, oxpeckers start to settle. With patience, they inspect and tend to the abrasions remaining from the disturbance. There is no spectacle, no dramatic interference, only silent healing unfolding. In this harsh world, it is sometimes the smallest bonds that enable life to steady itself and carry on. Hippos do not deliberately pursue confrontation. Their instinct favors defense and the preservation of familiar territory. In stable conditions, they devote much of their time to resting and upholding order within the herd. It is only when boundaries are breached or strain surpasses endurance that forceful responses arise, serving as a natural means of safeguarding themselves and their calves. The hippo's existence is upheld by collective discipline rather than solitary power. Every individual learns to keep the proper distance and to interpret cues expressed through sound and movement. This capacity for behavioral adjustment allows the herd to withstand severe conditions like drought. For the hippo, its essence does not rest in domination, but in sustaining equilibrium over time. Katavi has yet to permit a return to tranquility. The drought persists in constricting the available habitat, compelling species to reveal themselves more often and venture further from safety. As the water diminishes, watchfulness no longer centers solely upon the surface. Along the parched grasslands bordering the lake, a different pressure remains silently present. Within the arid expanse of Katavi, the presence of the creature known as king grows more distinct at the margins of the water. It neither hurries nor seeks display. Its simple emergence is sufficient to shift the atmosphere around it. When the apex presence steps into view, the natural order faces another trial. Though the rhythm of life begins to steady, the earlier marks upon the hippos' bodies have not entirely healed. Under Katavi's enduring heat, each movement serves as a reminder of their limits. Recuperation progresses gradually, demanding both time and quiet. In such a severe environment, sustaining sound condition becomes crucial to continued adaptation. Along the margin of Katavi's receding waters, a pride of lions advances quietly. They fan out, steadily narrowing the gap, shaping a careful ring around their focus. Unhurried and unobtrusive, every step is measured against the contours of the land and the drift of the wind. Such presence is sufficient to shift the rhythm of the entire scene. There is no rush to engage. The strain mounts through sound and measured distance. Roars ring out, responding to one another with pointed force. Each advance is accompanied by an unmistakable warning. The space feels tightly compressed between those facing one another. Even the slightest movement could transform the course of this encounter. Strained acknowledgments pass between them through fixed stares and low, reverberating calls. The hippos withdraw into the water, the domain they control with greatest authority. The lions press on, a few moving forward with deliberate caution. However, at the threshold between bank and water, the balance alters. On this occasion, the apex presence is forced to concede to the adept of the river. The hippo has no need for haste or spectacle to affirm its standing. Within the realm of turbid water and confined muddy shores, its power resides in assessing circumstance and selecting the appropriate ground. Beneath the surface, each motion is purposeful. The sovereign of the water persists through calm resolve and an acute awareness of its boundaries. The hippo's formidable bulk and measured stride often disguise its true character. Beneath that dense hide resides an intelligence refined by Katavi's unforgiving conditions. When the waters withdraw and balance is challenged, they do not succumb to panic. They adapt. Survival is preserved not by conflict, but by discerning decisions taken at precisely the right time. Cheetah, when speed shapes the order of the savannah. The savannah unfolds like a space without boundaries, where pale golden grass stretches beneath a vast sky and the light continually shifts with each passing gust of wind. With no dense cover for refuge, every movement is laid bare. It is precisely this openness that forms an environment requiring keen observation and absolute adaptability. Within what appears to be a simple landscape, the savannah becomes a domain shaped by speed and calculation. Low earthen mounds, faint trails across the grass, and open expanses create a distinctive living structure. This is not a land of clamor, but a place where each silent moment holds strategic significance. For the cheetah, the savannah is not merely a habitat, but a map committed to memory through sight and breath. Every element, from the direction of the wind and the angle of the sun to the height of the grass, contributes to shaping its way of being. In this open world, precision and the capacity to accelerate at precisely the right moment become the keys to maintaining its rhythm of life. The cheetah is considered the sovereign of speed in the natural world, holding the record as the fastest land animal across millions of years of evolution. It can reach speeds of approximately 120 kilometers per hour, but its greatest strength does not reside in that figure. What truly distinguishes it is its explosive acceleration in a fleeting moment, surpassing all familiar limits. From a stationary position, the cheetah can accelerate to 100 kilometers per hour within a few fleeting seconds, the result of only a handful of strides channeled with full force. Its light frame and optimized locomotor structure ensure that energy is not dispersed. Each movement is translated directly into acceleration, with no surplus and no hesitation. The cheetah's body appears crafted to cut through the wind across the open savannah. Its compact head, flattened ribcage, and long, slender legs work in precise harmony, reducing air resistance to a minimum. Every contour serves one singular aim, enabling this feline to master space through sheer speed. The savannah appears to slow for a fleeting instant as the cheetah lowers its body into the thin grass. Its breathing becomes measured and deeper, gaze fixed firmly on the movement ahead. In this open space, all elements are in place, and the pursuit is ready to be set in motion by the smallest of signals. Amid grass lightly stirred by the wind, a herd of impala becomes increasingly distinct, their slender forms moving in measured rhythm across the open terrain. They frequently raise their heads to survey their surroundings, ears turning in several directions to decipher the savannah's subtle signals. A sense of vigilance prevails, yet the rhythm of life endures, delicate yet disciplined. The cheetah's gaze moves steadily across the herd of impala, neither rushed nor uncertain. It looks for a movement out of sequence, a subtle gap within the advancing formation. In the wide expanse of the savannah, the decision is made with complete precision. Today's sustenance will not be determined by numbers, but by the most fitting moment. The space appears to draw taut as the cheetah surges from the grass, and the savannah sinks into a breathless hush. Explosive speed closes the distance in only a few fleeting strides. Every calculation focused into one decisive line of pursuit. When the motion subsides, equilibrium returns to the rhythm of life, and a well-earned meal signifies a fulfilled moment in the natural order. Following the flurry of swift movement, the impala herd slowly narrows its formation and returns to its accustomed rhythm. The frantic rush yields to measured caution, heads raised, ears attentive to the slightest sound. The savannah continues to shift, and their lives carry on, more wary than before, yet unbroken. In a separate expanse, the cheetah eases after its short surge of speed. Its body unwinds, breathing slowing steadily. No longer an arrow slicing through the wind, but a still figure amid the grassland. On the savannah, each moment forms part of an ongoing current, where every species maintains its proper place. Once the cheetah attains its maximum velocity, its body shifts into a state of optimal performance. The supple spine arches and extends like a living spring, coordinated with hips and shoulder blades that rotate with remarkable freedom. Consequently, each stride is lengthened to its fullest extent, enabling it to travel across the savannah in bounds far surpassing its own body length. At such speed, the cheetah's motion appears almost separated from the earth. Within each running cycle, there are fleeting instants when all four paws lift simultaneously from the grass, giving the sense that it is gliding low across the savannah. Contact with the ground is exceedingly brief, sufficient only to channel force before propelling into the next stride. The cheetah's tail acts as a biological rudder. It regulates the body's alignment, preserves balance, and steadies direction as the terrain ahead continually changes, enabling it to maintain exact control during each critical moment. Even the cheetah's paws carry the signature of an athlete designed for speed. The hard, flattened pads improve grip upon the ground, whilst the short claws, not entirely retractable, act as small anchors. They allow the cheetah to hold its course and retain greater control as it races at maximum velocity. On the savannah, speed does not equate to complete security. As the cheetah stops to regain its strength, other dangers become increasingly apparent. A leopard observes quietly from isolated groups of trees, making use of the calm and the shadows. A mere instant of inattention can disturb the delicate order. Further across the open grassland, the lion embodies the persistent pressure of shared territory. The power of the pride and its commanding presence oblige the cheetah to stay vigilant, selecting both moment and position with caution. On this land, no species lives apart. Each step must consider the eyes observing from afar. When the breeding season begins, the female cheetah withdraws from the open plains she knows so well, choosing thick scrub and tall grass in which to give birth. The process takes place in absolute quiet, for the newly born cubs are tiny and vulnerable to discovery. From the very first moment of arrival, concealment becomes essential for survival. However, even concealment cannot entirely eliminate danger. During relocation, or when the mother is compelled to depart in search of food, a lion may unexpectedly emerge, having caught the faintest trace of presence. Faced with such pressure, not every cub is fortunate enough to continue the journey. A few depart the cycle of life sooner than expected, part of the savannah's unyielding nature. Following the turbulence of their earliest days, the surviving cubs remain close to their mother, learning the discipline of silence and the art of adapting to their surroundings. Every relocation, every brief halt, becomes a lesson in survival well beyond their years. On the savannah, maturity is not measured in time, but in the capacity to withstand unrelenting pressure. When the cubs become capable of traveling further beside their mother, a subtle period of training commences. She does not instruct through overt action, but through unhurried steps, extended observation, and intentional pauses. In this world, the art of survival is conveyed through patience, rather than through verbal caution. the savannah slowly resumes its customary rhythm, with the wind gliding over the grass and the marks of speed dissolving beneath the sunlight. The cheetah leaves no proclamation, only a balance newly re-established. Within that vast openness, it endures as a pure expression of nature, swift, exact, and silently carrying on. Across the African savanna, where the powerful are always named first, one species endures without relying on speed or imposing stature. The warthog moves close to the ground, quiet and resilient. It does not command the plains, yet it is seldom edged out of the harsh rhythm that shapes this landscape. Its rough appearance makes the warthog easy to overlook in a land of claws and sharp tusks. Yet that seemingly ungainly body holds a remarkably effective survival strategy. There is no panic and no grand display. The warthog survives by understanding its limits and never exceeding them. In the wild, every step is a calculation. The warthog does not compete to be the strongest. It chooses to sustain a steady rhythm, avoid needless errors, and always keep a clear path of retreat. That is how a prey species can survive for a very long time on the savannah. Meet the warthog. It is especially fond of rolling in muddy wallows across the savannah. This behavior, known as mud bathing, helps protect the skin from ticks and other parasites. Although they may appear dirty, warthogs are surprisingly clean animals. The coating of mud also allows them to regulate their temperature in the heat of the day. But in the hottest months, the savannah turns more unforgiving than ever. The African sun beats down fiercely, leaving the mud wallows completely dry. Warthogs find themselves exposed as clouds of insects surround them, causing persistent discomfort. Even their thick skin does not readily adjust to such demanding circumstances. Under such strain, mongooses arrive at precisely the right time, providing a clever solution for the warthog. Mongooses hunt insects in groups and possess an insatiable appetite. In sizable numbers, they need a steady and plentiful food source. The warthog inadvertently becomes a magnet for insects, though its height makes reaching them anything but easy. So the more astute warthogs learn to lower themselves when the mongoose troop appears. The message is clear. The mongoose spa is open. Once the gap closes, the mongooses attend to the most difficult areas to reach. The warthog finds relief, while the mongooses feast well. A rare example of mutual benefit on the savannah. Shift to a hungry lion's, the most severe threat on the savannah. An easy meal not only sustains the pride's strength, but also serves as a vivid lesson for the cubs observing each movement. The approach is filled with clear expectation. Yet this selected target may not be as easily subdued as it first appears. The approach unfolds in absolute silence. Each step is measured, each gaze directed at the same target. This is not a moment of showmanship, but the quiet accumulation of pressure. The cubs are observing, and the duty to sustain the pride is clearly present. On the savannah, time seldom sides with the hesitant. The contest between two athletes intensifies, driving footsteps ripping through the quiet of the savannah as the distance rapidly shrinks. The warthog halts and turns to confront the advancing lioness. No flight and no fear. It lowers its stance, tusks pointed firmly forward. In that moment, the savannah appears to hold its breath. This is no longer a pursuit, but a trial of nerve and boundaries. The result does not play out as the lioness anticipates. The warthog, possessing far greater strength than its build implies, calls upon its ultimate defense. A firm step forward, and its sharp tusks form a line that cannot be breached. Confronted by such determination, the hungry pride withdraws. On the savannah, resolve can at times turn the tide. The warthog does not depart the savannah after that encounter. It carries on across a demanding land where every misstep leaves a trace. It requires no grand triumph, only the strength to hold its position. Its lasting survival is not built on one clash, but on the capacity to maintain its rhythm through countless recurring challenges. On the African savannah, it is not necessarily the swiftest or the strongest that survive the longest. The warthog knows this well. It does not strive to surpass others or attempt to dominate. Instead, it steers clear of needless risks, maintains a safe distance, and responds only when driven to its utmost limit. In the unforgiving dry season, when the savannah is depleted of its usual food supply, the warthog adapts its diet with notable flexibility. It digs up roots, seeks out dry tubers, and feeds on nutrient-poor grasses. Through this ability to adapt, the warthog continues to endure in areas where many other grazing species are compelled to leave. While foraging, the warthog frequently drops onto its front knees, a posture seldom observed among hoofed mammals. The joints in its forelegs have evolved to support weight effectively, enabling the body to lower with minimal energy use. As a result, The warthog can feed close to the ground for extended periods without tiring its neck. The kneeling stance not only enables the warthog to access the lowest food sources, but also illustrates how it conserves energy in a landscape that is perpetually demanding. When each movement requires consideration, limiting expenditure becomes essential. Through these modest yet consistent adaptations, the warthog sustains a steady rhythm through successive dry seasons. Yet on the savannah, adaptation seldom means complete safety. From the dense scrub, a familiar figure appears in silence. The leopard is neither noisy nor rushed. It observes quietly, dissolving into the tones of sun-scorched grass, a long-known danger, but never diminished in its threat. The encounter takes place in silence. The warthog feels the presence before it properly glimpses the hidden form. The leopard moves in gradually, its gaze fixed on the slightest motion. There is no unnecessary sound, only two steady breaths running side by side in a charged moment, where each decision demands absolute consideration. The standoff is resolved by instinct alone. The warthog responds at once, lowering its body and standing firm. There is no panic and no delay. It transforms alertness into a distinct boundary. Confronted by such determination, the leopard retreats. Once more, the warthog demonstrates that survival is not reserved solely for predators. The warthog's strength is found not in its build or speed, but in its ability to read a situation and react at the proper moment. Subtle intelligence, joined with instincts refined through time, gives rise to remarkable moments. On the savannah, it is wisdom that enables a smaller species to hold its ground against much larger dangers. The warthog's curved tusks are not simply an identifying trait, but a 10 out of 10 defense uniquely suited to this species. Sharp enough to intimidate, sturdy enough to maintain distance, and accurate enough to turn the tide when pressed. On the savannah, very few prey animals carry a defensive instrument so efficient and well-formed. The warthog does not pursue conflict, yet it stands ready when driven into a corner. Across each demanding season, it secures its place on the land. Neither the swiftest nor the most powerful, but furnished with precisely what is required. At times, one fitting defense is sufficient to sustain a lasting story of survival. The migrants. The great journey of wild Africa. At the heart of wild Africa, the savannah unfolds like an endless ocean of gold, where the wind brings the scent of red dust and stories yet to be told. The sun lifts, pouring light over fractured plains, stirring a land that survives on the boundary between hunger and hope. And today, a journey begins, one that will challenge even those who rule this place. Through the extended dry season, the savannah shifts its character with each passing day. The final traces of water narrow into muddy smears, compelling countless creatures to abandon familiar ground. Predators and prey alike share the same longing for new life. And within this sweeping movement, the footprints of a lion pride sink into the hardened soil. They head for the horizon, where whispers of water drift on the wind. Yet to get there, the whole pride must face the dry season's most perilous obstacle, a river guarded by unseen ambush. Under the quiet growl of land and sky, the first test lies in wait. Gentle splashes ripple through the savannah's quiet, announcing that the river is near. But what appears to offer life also hides a silent threat. Beneath the cloudy water, subtle vibrations, like measured breaths, betray another presence lying in wait. With each cautious step, the pride senses tension tightening across the air. Within the gently stirring shadows of the water, cold golden eyes open, studying those about to enter its territory. The crocodile, Africa's master of ambush, remains perfectly still, as though blended into the river. That silence deepens the unease of the surface, a muted signal that the meeting ahead may be unavoidable. The lion pride halts at the riverbank, watching a surface that appears still, yet carries unseen risk. They know the crocodiles remain hidden beneath the cloudy water. Warm wind drifts across the dry plains, pressing the pride onward. Between hesitation and the pull of survival, they ready themselves to enter a test that will decide their path. As the pride starts to enter the cloudy water, one cub lags behind. The surface stirs, betraying motion from beneath, and the elongated shadow of a crocodile slips quietly nearer. The river seems to hold its breath, while fear flashes in the cub's eyes, with danger just a few moments away. In a moment balanced on survival, the lioness surges back through the current, throwing up bursts of white spray. Her roar tears across the river, making the crocodile falter. Confronted by such determination, the ambusher withdraws into deeper water. The cub shivers as it draws close to the pride, and the river settles once more into its usual stillness. At last, waterlogged paws step onto the far bank, where warm, dry earth greets the pride with the softer breath of the evening breeze. They settle among scattered grasses, breathing heavily after a perilous passage. In this rare pocket of peace, they recover their strength before the long journey that still awaits. As the river absorbs the last traces of the confrontation, the crocodile retreats silently to its familiar waters. Hunger draws it deeper into the murky mud, scanning for any hint of life. Then nature provides a rare gift, the slowly drifting body of an old hippo, sufficient to feed the river's most patient hunter. As the sun slips below the glowing red horizon, the river returns to its ageless stillness. Here, life and risk travel together, and every creature moves on with a story of its own. The water continues to flow, silently composing new chapters for the coming season, as though no conflict had ever occurred. Not far from where the lion pride has faced its recent test, the earth quivers under footsteps, reaching all the way to the horizon. A wildebeest herd is beginning its yearly migration, tracing the river that still holds the echoes of a fierce struggle for survival. They flow like another living current of the savannah, seeking new grass and the remaining water after the unforgiving dry season. Following an ancient rhythm carved into instinct, the wildebeest slowly assemble into dark, sinuous lines across the plains. They sense that the dry season has reached its threshold, and that only migration can sustain life. One group links to the next like living veins, moving towards the promised ground beyond. Ahead, the wildebeest herd finds its route cut off by the same river that still holds the memory of a perilous pursuit. Beneath a surface that seems gentle, unseen dangers remain in quiet watch. Instinct drives them onward, but with each step towards the water's edge, the whole herd senses the challenge rising before them. Then a handful of individuals jump in without warning, triggering a strong ripple across the herd. One by one, the others follow, transforming the riverbank into a swirl of spray and movement, ushering in a demanding river crossing that begins the next stage of their journey. The churning water raised by hundreds of jumps also rouses a predator newly replenished. Following the unexpected feast from the hippo carcass, the crocodile becomes more agile, more driven. It leaves its shelter in silence, gliding through the cloudy water with unyielding purpose, resolved to transform this crossing into a fresh chance to hunt. Within the churning flow, the herd's changing lines create perfect openings for the crocodile to drive through. From the depths, it rises without warning, breaking the river's surface in a surge of movement. The wildebeest spread out, each animal forcing forward against the racing current, while the predator locks onto its focus in a critical moment with no way back. Amid the chaos of the river, the crocodile's forceful sweep finally pulls one wildebeest beneath the cloudy water. The encounter concludes quickly, as nature has done for millions of years. As the splashing subsides, the river reclaims its rule, reminding us that here, life is always shaped by an inescapable price. As the river continues to hold the memory of the perilous pursuit, most of the wildebeest herd has made it to the opposite bank. Their bodies are drenched, breathing hard, eyes still shaken yet steady with determination. With firm ground beneath their hooves once more, they gather themselves and press on, as though this were merely one of migration's necessary tests. Before the wildebeest herd, new ground unfolds like a quiet promise after long days of risk. Fresh green grass stretches beneath mellow light, bringing with it the fragrance of life just renewed. Here they find a short moment of peace, letting their bodies recover before the migration draws them onward once more. Not far from the young grass where the wildebeest briefly regain their calm, the well-known steps of the lion pride move into new ground. They have made it across the perilous river, yet nature never ceases its trials. In a world where predator and prey live side by side, the delicate balance is once more brought into question. Across churning rivers, sunburnt plains, and unending migrations, Africa reveals itself as a realm where life never stands still. Every creature, hunter or hunted, adds its own beat to the great harmony of this land. All persist through resilience and through a boundless ability to adapt. Here, danger is not an exception. It is the essence of existence. From the roar of lions, to the dash of gazelles, to the quiet movement of crocodiles, every moment holds the potential to alter destiny. Yet it is this severity that gives rise to an unusual beauty, where every creature is forced to find strength in its own way. As the sun drops beyond the glowing red horizon, Africa slips back into the slow, deep breath of night. The cycle carries on, and fresh journeys will start once more with the next dawn. And within that sense of forever, this wild land reminds us that nature moves by its own rules, at once unforgiving and profoundly beautiful.